Hello and welcome back to our study of Peninei Halacha, of the teachings of Eliezer Melamed, Shlita. We find ourselves on a Wednesday, and before we begin, we should just point out, of course, that today is September 11th, a somber, solemn, sad day for us here in the New York area, thinking back to where we were on that fateful day, and we think of the thousands of souls that were lost, murdered on that day, and how our world changed forever. And may all the memories be for a blessing. And we continue to daven for Chayalei Tzva Hagana Yisrael, Refuah Shalom L'Chol Petzuei Yisrael, and a safe return of our hostages. We dedicate our learning Leili Nishmat, Seren Daniel Shimon ben Harav Doron V'Sheli Hashem Yikum Damo. The next chapter is perhaps something that many shulgoers will love more than anything. I always say that there's nothing that gives the Jewish soul greater joy than the ability to skip Tachanun, although if you've been paying attention to our lessons, you might alter your position on that a little, realizing how meaningful this prayer is, but nonetheless, Yamim she'ein omrim behem Tachanun. Hoel u tfilas Nefillat Apayim hi tfila sheyesh bat tsar al choshoseinu v'chesronenu. So since by its very definition, the recitation of Tachanun is a prayer that has within it a certain element of pain, because we talk about what we're missing or lacking, our shortcomings. Shalkein eineni yecholom la'amod lefonav, and the idea of falling down and sitting down is saying that we can't even stand up in front of you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Elam mishtachvim v'noflon al paneinu, so we just bow, we fall on our faces. Lefichach ein roi le'omra b'yamim shel simcha kishabasos yamim tovim v'roshei chadashim. So therefore we do not recite Tachanun on days of simcha, like Shabbos, Yantiv, Rosh Chodesh. V'kivan shemei ikara tfilas Tachanun hi rishus. And since Tachanun is not an obligatory prayer in terms of its canonization, its establishment, it's a rishus, lefichach gam b'yamim shehistapku im roy lahagdirim k'yamim shel simcha nogen shelo lomar Tachanun. That's why we have a rather thin line of, let's say, permissibility to skip, meaning since it's not an obligatory prayer, if there's even something that might be a day of simcha, then we'll be lenient and we will skip Tachanun. So, Benusif l'Shabbos v'Rosh Chodesh, so aside from Shabbos and Rosh Chodesh, Elu hayamim shein omrim b'hem Tachanun lefi Seder Hashana. These are the days, we're going to just list the days that we don't say Tachanun. And by the way, if you look in your siddur, different siddurim have different ideas of what those days are. Just to give you an idea of how broad and how rishus-oriented this tefillah is. Shachar shel Erev Rosh Hashanah, Shachar shel Erev Yom Kippur. On the days before Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, Haba Aleinu L'Tova, actually, so on Shachris, we don't say it, on Erev Yom Kippur or Rosh Hashanah. Miyud Aleph B'Tishrei at Sof Chodesh Tishrei, Hol Ve'elu Yamim Shesaviv Chag HaSukkos. So already from the end of Yom Kippur and through the end of the month, because we're preparing for Sukkos, and then you have all the days of Sukkos, and we have this idea that since most of the days are Yontif, we'll just take off the whole month. Chanukah, Tu B'Shvat, Shnei Yamim HaPurim, 2 days of Purim. Again, so even we don't have a notion of Shushan Purim, but Shushan Purim is a Simcha day on the calendar, and even though we don't observe it, let's say because we're not in a walled city from the time of Yeshua ben Nun, we'll still skip it. And not only that, Ubishanim Uberes Gabi Adal V'Tesvav B'Adar Rishon, and we just had this past year, in the most recent year, we had a leap year, so even we had something called Purim Katan in the leap year, and in the leap month, on Adar Rishon, we don't say Tachanun on the 14th and 15th of Adar Rishon. Kol Chodesh Nisan, the entire month of Nisan, Shahol V'Yatza Ruba B'Kedusho, since, again, the majority of the month, we find itself in sanctity. Shebetchilas Ha'isech Chanukas HaMishkan, because the first 12 days we have the dedication of the Mishkan. That's why people have the custom of reading those Parshios in Parshas Naso, with each dedication from each Nasi. And then you have Ve'achar Chag HaPesach, and then you have Pesach, Ein Omer B'Kulo Tachanun, so therefore the entire month we don't say Tachanun. Yud Daled Be'ir Shu Pesach Sheni. Pesach Sheni, again, something that's not celebrated, because we don't have a Karban Pesach, so we don't have a makeup of a Karban Pesach, but we still keep that on the calendar, so we have Pesach Sheni, we don't say Tachanun. Lag BaOmer, Rosh Chodesh Sivan V'Ad Yud Beis B'Sivan, from the beginning of the month of Sivan until the 12th. And why that? Because you have the beginning, which is Shloshos Yimei Hagbala, and then you have Shavuos, but then the additional days, because there was Tashlum, and if a person was unable to bring the Karbanos of Shavuos, you had those days afterwards to make them up. Tisha B'Av, Obim nehavelos meishnikra moed. So Tisha B'av we don't say Tachanun, which seems sort of counterintuitive. So either because it's a day of mourning Shiva, we don't say Tachanun in the Shiva home, or because actually in Megillas Eicha, Tisha B'av is considered a moed. Not your typical type of moed, but it is a moed. And Tu B'Av, the 15th day of Av. V'gam b'mincha shlofnei kol hayomim halalu ein omrim Tachanun. And generally speaking, if you're not going to say Tachanun, let's say it's Rosh Chodesh or it's a Yontif coming up, and you don't say the Tachanun, you don't say it in the Mincha beforehand either. Milvad b'mincha shel Erev Rosh Hashanah u'mincha shel Erev Yom HaKippurim sherabim omrim mevidu avelo Tachanun. Except for the Mincha of Erev Rosh Hashanah and Mincha of Erev Yom Kippur. Again, we're talking about the Mincha before Erev Rosh Hashanah, before Erev Yom Kippur, because some say Vidui and many don't say Tachanun. Again, different rules, different customs. It's an interesting question. If you look and you say the Mincha before Pesach Sheni, do you say Tachanun or not? Interesting thing. And here we go. This is something that's, I'm sure, depending on what type of shul you daven in, will have different customs, but we knew this was coming, Baruch Hashem. So after Hashem has already begun to have the Reshit Tzmichas Gulaseinu, the sprouting of the flowering of our redemption, meaning the founding of the state of Israel, Ein Omrim Tachanun b'Yom Ha'atzmaut, B'Chav Ches Iyar Yom Shichur Yerushalayim, U'B'Mincha Shel Lefnehem. Then we don't say Tachanun, of course, on whatever day Yom Ha'atzmaut is being celebrated. It's not always on Hey Iyar. Again, that's a recent innovation. But on Yom Ha'atzmaut and Yom Yerushalayim, which is the 28th day of Iyar, and of course the Mincha beforehand. But just taking into account that not reciting Tachanun doesn't mean we're getting away with something. It has to do with the Simcha element of the day, and maybe we could adjust our attitudes towards that. But in any event, we thank you for joining us. Please continue davening for Chayil Tzvah Gana Yisrael, for Shlim L'chol Petzui Yisrael, safe return of our hostages, and we dedicate our learning to Nishmat, Sarah and Daniel Shem, and Rav Shlomo Misheler, Shem Kam Damo. Have a great day, and we'll see you here next time.